Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of 100 Words or Less. I'm your host, Ray Harkins. Today, I'm speaking with Kyle Kinane. He is a pretty well-known stand-up comic, and I was very excited to conduct this interview. More on him in a minute. Let's get some business out of the way, and then we'll talk to Kyle. PropertyOfZach.com. If you are not visiting them, you should be. If you're interested in music of the independent variety, they have a lot of stuff that you may be interested in. So go there, check out all of the news, features, reviews, everything. They've got a lot of stuff happening on a day-to-day basis, and I check there multiple times a day. So go there. They're great partners of ours. Go to our own website as well, 100wordspodcast.com. And if you're feeling so gracious, go to iTunes, drop a few stars as far as a review is concerned. And if you are feeling even more gracious, you can write a review. A few sentences here and there. I've been noticing a lot of people overseas. Thanks for the worldwide support, but United States, you got to step it up. So if you haven't done that and you have listened to a few shows, I really would appreciate that. We have a new logo for the show as well. Launched it last week, was the first time. Shout out to our friend Adam Vass, who was a previous guest of the show. He did the new logo, and I am very happy with it. I'm not like the last one was terrible, but, new year, new set of podcasts. Figure I might as well change the face of it. So yes, Kyle Kinane. I went to a comedy show here in Southern California at the Irvine Improv, and he was opening, if I'm not mistaken, for one of my favorite comedians and, dare I say, template of this show, Mark Maron. I hadn't seen Kyle. I haven't heard of him before. He was incredible. He was just really funny, very self-deprecating, and then I started to see him pop up in a bunch of different places doing interviews on podcasts and, just started to become aware of his world. Then I started to notice that he mentioned punk and hardcore and just having a reference for the world that we all know and love. And so that obviously intrigued me. Then on top of that, he performed at the Fest, which I went to last year in Florida. And his set was incredible. He did one in the afternoon at a bar. It was just such an amazing, packed venue. He really was feeling it. He's riffing on the crowd, and I don't know. It was one of those moments where you felt like he was really, truly, kind of comfortable walking into this, and that obviously makes a world of difference when you're a comedian walking into a room. So, he's one of those people I was just, hit up on Twitter. It was like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about Chicago, the Lawrence Arms, and, just named a few Chicago things because that's where he's from and that's where he grew up. And he hit me back, and I was like, oh, the power of Twitter continually amazes me. Started trading some emails and trying to schedule this, and then he invited me over to his house up in the Silver Lake area. Just a good dude. Like, walked in and immediately felt comfortable, at ease, and, him and I just rapped for close to an hour and a half, 2 hours. Obviously, I kept this show to roughly around an hour. I can tell he's on to some good things. He'll probably be doing his own special and being in other television shows. And yeah, he just seems to have a lot of things going on for him. But a lot of who he is currently is informed by what he experienced as a teenager in regards to going to punk shows. We talk about that. And I'm glad to call him a friend now. So here's my interview with Kyle. Check it out.
Take back every word that I said.
And all the references you've put on, and then I like to start things off with just basically like my own personal entry point into your world as I speak. So I saw you perform for the first time that weekend that Mark Maron did in Irvine at the Irvine Improv. This was like maybe a year and a half ago. Because I don't know. Have you performed there? Have you done?
I have. I don't know if I've been there with Maron.
No, it might have been just because that obviously that comedy club is difficult to get people to show up to. Okay, it wasn't with Maron, but I can't remember who it was with, and it was one of those things like where I was just like, oh, like you peppered in some references to that, and I was like, oh, this guy's one of us. And then once you put out your record, you know, the bit where you're talking about you starting a band and suburbs and all that, I was just like, I have to talk to Kyle immediately.
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, like I saw you at the fest. I was out there with a friend's record label, and I saw you do the bar gig, not like the evening stand up gig, but like
Man, that was the best show out of all of them.
It was incredible.
Me and James Fritz.
Yes, exactly.
And I was trying to explain to him because he's not from the DIY scene or anything. I'm like, listen, you're gonna want to make fun of everybody. Do it. They love it. Like, please go for it. Understand that, like they're it's a welcoming crowd, because I was always scared shitless to do. Coming from music and everything, going into comedy club, like, oh god, I'm purposely trying to entertain people instead of just being like, fuck you guys, love it or leave it. You know?
No, that's what, like, it really strikes me, like, once I started to obviously become more entrenched in the stand-up comedy world, just as far as, like, knowledge of it, the direct correlation between playing in a band and being a stand-up comedian, they're exactly the same. I mean, like, there's obviously distinct differences, but, like, the whole idea of, like, oh, fucking playing in Omaha, Nebraska in front of 10 people. Yeah. I've done that. You've probably done that. Yeah. Like,
and the fact that it can be one of the best shows you ever have.
Right.
I think what has helped me is seeing bands and seeing success from a DIY scene. Like, long story short.
No, okay. I'll be able to trace you back to that. So yeah, that's where we'll go. We'll go to your origin stories after that.
The origin stories will come out. But seeing bands and going, oh, they made it without all this other bullshit.
Yeah.
Why can't comedy do the same thing? And
right.
So I just didn't know how to do that. I moved to LA in 2003, and it was when UCB opened up that I started seeing it. I'm like, oh, I think I've seen you at shows, and now you're here.
Right.
Well, why are you here? Oh, because it's $5 to get in. You can bring your own booze in. And people are doing crazy shit here.
Right.
That is not, it's not $20, 2-drink minimum, 21 and over at a comedy club. And it's somebody talking about, I mean, this is an older, not so much nowadays, like, but even when I started doing comedy, it's like, I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't relate to this material.
The sort of hackneyed references that...
Yeah, and even if it's not hackneyed, but just stuff I didn't relate to.
Right.
Going like, oh no, I'm a scumbag that goes and drinks at shows, but I can't do comedy about that and make it relatable to people that were going to see comedy at the time.
Right.
So it's like, well, how do I do jokes about what I know about?
Right.
But then get in front of people that would understand it, because nobody wanted to see stand-up comedy. Like, I was scared to tell band people.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm doing a comedy gig. Like, what? And they get there and they're like, what the fuck is this?
Really? So you kind of, like, obviously your friends, like, you kind of, I mean, you didn't keep it secret, but you were like, just don't come to my shows.
I didn't want that. I wanted to just do it without anybody knowing, just to find out if I could do it. You know,
right.
People, well, bring all my friends out.
Right, yeah,
like,
my first show, so I can tank in front of all them.
Yeah, or just have like a false sense of confidence. Like, no,
That's
I want
true.
to see if absolute strangers that have no investment in my well-being will laugh at these jokes.
I
want an actual gauge. Because you play in a band, and you want your friends to come out. Like, it's a party.
Yep.
We didn't think we were going to go anywhere with a band, but
No.
man, it's fun as hell when our friends are here.
Yeah, of course.
And even if it's not, you're in a band, at least there's 3 of your buddies in the band. Hopefully
Right,
they're your
right.
buddies.
You got some people backing you up.
They're like, well, we loaded up. We had a practice session that was 2 hours away today.
Like I said, we will now backtracking to your origin story. So you were born and raised in the Chicago-ish area?
Chicagoland area, suburbs.
What burbs in particular?
Addison, Illinois.
Okay.
Which was, in my over-romanticized history of punk rock, was Valentine's Day.
Yep.
1993. A friend's like, we're gonna go see a show, and I didn't know any, like, I knew I liked punk music. I didn't have an older brother, didn't have older friends, didn't have anybody to introduce me to stuff. So I'm like, oh man, that song that's on National Lampoon's European Vacation when they're in the Louvre, which was a plastic bird. Yeah, I'm like, that song, music should sound like that. And then Wild in the Streets from the Thrashing soundtrack,
right?
And that's what music that I wanted to.
You're like, that is what I identify with.
Yeah, and I didn't know where to get any of that music. 93 was like Pearl Jam was coming around. Like, some of that stuff, it was also real mopey, and like Nirvana was like, I'm not depressed. I mean, I have angst, and I'm angry at the stuff, but I'm not depressed. Like, I want music that's like, yeah, fuck this. Not like, you're sad and you're lonely and you're lonely and you're sad. I'm like, no, let's have a good time. We're stuck here. Fuck it, have fun.
Right.
So my friend who I'd go skating with, like, he played No Effects in the car. And so I was like, just the annoying kid. Who's this? Who's this now? What band is this? Who's this? Where'd you get this? Where'd you get this tape? Can you get it here? Can you drive me there? And was
Can I have yours?
It was just a total. Yeah, can you make me a mix? Can you make me? It was a complete pain in the ass about it.
Right.
And he's like, all right, we're going to go see a show. And it was at McGregor's, which was this pretty legendary
Yeah.
all ages venue. I had no idea. I was going to the last show at McGregor's.
Oh, wow.
Which was at Valentine's Day. It was Screeching Weasel, Boll Weevils, Vindictives, and Smoking Popes.
Get out of here.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know. But like pulling into a parking lot, and there's hundreds of people there. I was like, wait a minute. First off, it's like, I'm like, so we're going to a concert. He's like, no, it's a show. I'm like, well, bands, doesn't it mean it's a concert? I couldn't even understand why you call it a show.
Like the basic tenets of obviously what.
Yeah, like a concert. Do we get tickets? What were our seats? Where are we sitting? Like I did.
Yeah.
My only concert I went to was Poison and Warrant in the 8th grade.
Right.
And I didn't know how you got to that point as a band. Like
No.
I'm just at a stadium.
Yeah.
Watching a laser show, a crudely drawn woman on a laser with lasers.
And what I also
this is rock and roll.
Yeah. And what I also like about that too is the fact that like when you're younger, you have no concept of like a tour. You think bands literally materialize in front of you. Like you were just like, oh yeah, like they show up here. They probably live down the road. You have no context.
Or that they started somewhere. That they suck. Because I was at the same time, I had a guitar, was like just listening to Joe Satriani going, well, why did I get a guitar? I'm never going to be able to do that. So that I shouldn't have this guitar. I'm not going to be a virtuoso.
Right.
So on every single level of what I did at 16 years old, was seeing hundreds of people that was a band that had no, I didn't know that they weren't on MTV, they weren't on the radio or anything. So how did people know about this stuff?
Right.
How are all these people here? That was fascinating. The first show sold out. Again, I told you, very romanticized story.
That's
everything I've been
be.
trying to write about this.
Now you're able to express
and
it.
it's 20 years. Yesterday it's been 20 years. So God damn it, I'm an old person now. But then, like, okay, so we're stuck, and so they played a first show. They added a second show, just was going to be Screeching Weasel. But I remember, like, okay, we got to wait. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
And, like, the door opening up, and I heard the guitar solo from Supermarket Fantasy. And I was like, I can play that, but it still sounds like music. I was like, oh, I gotta see. We have to stay here for the second show.
Right.
And get in there. How people go nuts seeing a band where it's like, oh, I know how to play that stuff, yet aesthetically, that's the exact sound I want to do. So it made me go, oh, I can start a band because I can do this stuff.
Right.
I could maybe start a band that can become successful because look at the hundreds of people that are here for this.
Right.
That this is how bands start. Oh, it's tangible.
Yeah. It's attainable. You can see it right in front of you.
It's right here. There they are.
Right. Dude, that's so funny that all, because I think usually those experiences, they may happen in rapid succession, but they usually don't all happen like in one night.
It was insane. It was a Sunday night, and that Monday, being economical, I'm like, all right, well, Boogie to Boogie has the most songs on it, so I'll buy this one.
Dude, I love that mentality because everybody goes through that where it's just like, oh yeah, I mean, I totally bought Dead Kennedys, Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death because there's like 26 songs on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna like something.
Right.
If I don't, all right, maybe this isn't the music for me.
Right.
That was it for years, was just, and it was 20 years ago, so there was no the internet. It was like, all right, who do you think in your liner notes? All right, I gotta buy those CDs. Yeah. Every show, give me a flyer. Okay, I can go to these. And the fact that it was a mile away from my house, McGregor was, but then, and Elmhurst had a bunch of shows. The suburbs had all these shows. So I had to go to the city. Right. And it was the exact type of music I wanted to hear.
Right. You're like, how is this happening so close to my house? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, and what is it? And that was the extra, like, all right, this is the extra nostalgic part, was that the McGregor's was at a corner that I don't remember I found it before or after, but my uncle works for the fire department. And he's like, oh yeah, 83 and North Avenue. He's like, oh, that's ground zero for Cold War missile strike from Russia, or wherever they
where they were looking to
like, oh yeah, that was it, because he's privy to like disaster information and evacuation plans. Like, oh yeah, because if the missile hits in Chicago proper, a lot of the blasts will go out over the lake and it would be wasted. So that was the population center of the Chicagoland area.
Just this X-ray.
Right when you want to think the suburbs makes you feel small and flat and unimportant. Not only do you see like a concert that changed your life at this intersection, but also it's where a missile would exactly land.
Right. The Russians particularly planned this out perfectly.
Somebody in a missile compound in Russia was like, right here. This is the spot. So it's like, man, that two pretty special things happened in that intersection.
You're like, that's incredible. I'm glad I know that.
Yeah, I thought it was a mattress store and a Burger King, but it turns out ground zero, and I would see a concert that basically informed my attitude for pretty much every pursuit for the rest of my life.
Right. Prior to that, like how were you? Like 12, 13 as you were?
I was 16.
Oh, 16, okay.
I was
So you were in high school. You were like kind of just figuring your shit out.
I wasn't, like I said, I didn't have older siblings. There was the guys that always had like the front 242 and Cam FDM shit. They just looked, I don't know, they looked like a drag. They just looked serious all the time.
Yeah, they did.
You know,
I agree.
They didn't look fun.
No,
and
no,
the guy
no.
took me the guy, like purple hair, skateboards, like smiling, like make jokes. I'm like, that guy.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
I want to follow what he's doing.
I want to go out and have fun. I don't want to look morose all the time. Like, I wasn't a depressed teenager.
Right.
I enjoyed being a teenager.
Right.
You have your angst. You're in the suburbs.
Of
like,
course.
I enjoyed the company of my friends and then going to shows every weekend.
And so, prior to that, you were just kind of like, were you doing sports? Were you like trying
to? No. I think I was, like taking art classes and like, grunge or something, trying to play guitar, but not knowing. Like that weird thing, like, well, I can't suck forever at this. But
Right.
going like, yeah, you probably actually you can.
You can.
There's guitars here, just as bad. Right. I'm just as bad.
The guitars have followed you. It's not like you've improved.
If not worse, because at least in a band there's some regular practicing. Now I pick it up like, I'll just noodle. Like I think I'm going to be the guy like, I'll just go, and I'm just like, blang, no, put it down.
You're like, let me just go back to those bar chords.
Stop it, yeah. Just play the beginning to Back in Black like you know how to do.
And so what did your parents do as you were growing up, like profession-wise?
My dad worked in the airline industry.
Okay.
And mom was a homemaker.
Oh, okay.
And
just to deal with you at home.
Yeah, just me and sis, just put up with us. They're good folks. I mean, blue collar household.
Yeah.
But good folks still together. That's a rarity.
That is a complete rarity. So how many years is that now? Like,
did they just click over 30 years?
That's a lot.
They just clicked over 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that is impressive. Yes, I mean it's like you said, it's a very idyllic sort of suburban experience.
Yeah, it was lower middle class,
okay,
blue collar, but not wanting anything.
Right.
You don't grow up with much. You don't expect much, and you're like,
right.
You make your own fun.
You're not like, where's my Sweet 16 party?
There was that was part of it. Like everybody, like, no, we just make our own fun. Nobody's like, we need money. I was like, once I got money, I was like, oh, cool. What do we do with this?
Right. Do I put it away?
I guess I get a new skateboard or something. But it's free to go sit in a parking lot and convince somebody to buy you beer.
Right.
It's free. So, and the show, yeah, basically it was just buy music, buy every 7-inch you could, buy every, like.
Right.
Because when it's brand new.
Oh, yeah.
I have to amass all this.
Yeah, basically once your kind of head is cracked open, the whole DIY punk and hardcore scene gets poured in. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't stop even if you tried. Like,
no, it's like one of those weird when you get on like a wiki hole late at night, like, and what's this now? And then I'll clap. It always winds back to Anton LaVey.
Right. You're like, oh wow.
Always back to like,
I found this again.
Satanism. Oh, you Satanists.
So, like you said, obviously after that show happened, and that was kind of your being. Like, once your parents start to recognize that you're into something that they don't understand, like, from obviously your record, the fact that your parents seem pretty supportive, like, or were they just like, we'll just let Kyle do his thing, we'll try to be supportive over it, but we have no idea?
Yeah, I don't think there was much to shock my parents with, and nor was I trying to.
Right. It wasn't the fuck you, mom.
And that's why I got to enjoy it even more. It wasn't like there was no reason other than I just really loved it. Like I couldn't shock my mom. My mom, like she knew how to squash it by like just embrace it. Like, oh, you're gonna color your hair? All right, well, give it to me. I'll do it right so you don't get it everywhere. Like,
I love.
It doesn't.
That wasn't the point, but yeah, I just
over support. Well, that's what led to me living there until I was 26. Oh, you want to be over supportive? Well, we'll see how this standoff ends.
I will be here until I'm 40.
I'm 26. How about now? Yeah, you wanted to be supportive. Oh, okay. I like that support. Here I am.
Yeah. Try to charge me $100 in rent.
What now? Put a third plate on that table. I'm eating dinner here again tonight.
Once you witnessed a show, like you said, you wanted to play in a band. You were like, that is...
Yeah, I figured like just play along Screeching Weasel. I'm like, oh, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And from there, like, oh, I can figure everything else out. Even the Ramones, I mean, exposed to the Ramones, but that still did seem like Beatles or Stones or something.
Totally.
It was just this they've been around.
Yeah. I
It
mean,
was
that was
still
like way before.
And it was still a concert. Yeah, it was
Right.
still like, I remember going to see the Ramones like getting hit by like 50-year-old dudes. Like, why are you here?
Right, what?
But in reality, they were probably just my age. Like I am at a show now, drunk, pushing a 17-year-old.
Old creepy guy in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, just pushing a 17-year-old. Like, I know the words. Fuck off.
leave me alone.
I did that at a queer show last summer. I had some bad circumstances happen, but I still went to the concert. And I purposely kind of dressed like a shitbag. Like I had
really?
Like a flowery cowboy shirt on and a
amazing.
baseball hat.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like standing in the pit, just taking hits. Because I knew it.
You were that guy in the center of the pit being like, what the fuck is this guy doing here?
Yeah. I knew it. You could tell. You're just these young kids. That's what upsets me. It's like, I thought, what about like move forward, move ahead and progress? And it's like we're still doing the craft project leather jackets. Like, you can't say I don't care when you clearly spent 6 hours on your jacket.
This is an art project in and of itself.
Yes, you clearly sat down with your metal studs.
Right. You've invested so much time and energy into this.
I will never take crust punk seriously until they lose the fashion sense. I'm not going to give you money until you stop putting bandanas on your dog.
Or you stop having 7 dogs around you. There's 3 people and 7 dogs.
7 dogs and perfect fashion for a scene. You shouldn't have a scene if you're homeless.
No,
You shouldn't have a look.
you shouldn't immediately be able to go into a tragedy show and then be able to, just go on the street and be like, they kind of look out of place, but I don't know. Like,
yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah.
You lose it with the patches. Somebody's sewing this for you.
Right, totally. And you probably spent a good $5 on that patch.
Yes.
You didn't just cut it out of the back of your shirt.
Stop buying ear gauges.
And so did you because you played in bands, right? Like you were attempting to put stuff together in high school?
Yeah, high school was kind of just fine. Like, you bought a bass? All right, we'll get together. And it was sloppy, but like the first time, like, oh, you played a different thing than I played, but it sounded like it worked.
Yeah.
And then finding somebody whose parents let them play drums was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It was always the hardest, was finding a drummer. It was always some spaz with like absentee parents. Like, all right.
Just we put them in the back.
I guess you're a drummer, yeah. So your parents haven't been home in 3 weeks. How does that work? Does DCFS come by here?
So you feed yourself? Like no one makes you dinner?
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I've done it once.
What's emancipated me?
And so, what was the actual first time that you played a show or like first band experience from that perspective?
It was the band that I still stuck with for like 4 years. It's called the Grand Marquis. And,
okay.
It was.
That was your kind of your first band that you sort of
first band that really, yeah. I mean, I was in one after that. That was kind of a screw around. I think we played maybe 3 or 4 shows.
Okay, that's not a terrible band name for your first band, though.
Grand Marquis. It was me and the other guitar player pulling up in our parents' Grand Marquis because we both lived in the suburbs and we both used our parents' car.
That's perfect.
We call ourselves, and there was the argument like, well, how do you pluralize marquis? Is it marquises? Or do we change the... and it was like, oh, fuck. It was like the dumbest. We don't know. So you guys, the Grand Marquises? The Grand Marquis? Just pronounce the S.
Right.
Just say the S. That's how we settled on it.
And that's what I like, I mean, especially from your first band, it is such a fucking piece of work to be like, what is our goddamn name?
And you want to change it. Like, that was stupid. We weren't thinking.
Totally.
And then the second band name's like the worst, like...
Dude, I'll never...
Something with a number in it.
I'll never forget asking my parents for help, which was like, why would you do that? But I was like, I asked my mom, and then of course she asked her sister. So my aunt... like faxed, because obviously that's what you did, no email. She faxed over this list.
You get your band name. My aunt faxed us some suggestions.
Dude, and the bit, it was so fucking incredible because she had watched a natural disaster show and had come up with a list of like 30 names, and it was just like they all were natural disaster related. And I like read this and I was like, this is a terrible idea. I shouldn't have asked for their help. But you're always poring over it so much, and then when you do trip onto something like the Grand Marquis, you're just like, oh yeah, how about we just do that?
Yeah, it was like a default name for like playing at parties, and it's like, oh, I guess it's there.
Well,
we never made merch, never made records. We spent a bunch of money recording a record, and then
never got into anything.
Never toured. Everybody had jobs, and
I mean, obviously, you always see the big transition point of high school band to when people have to do real life shit and like go to college.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah. Well, and that was the thing. This was a couple of us stayed at community college. It was all older guys.
yeah.
What I graduated was already like the one friend that bailed out of like dropped out of college was already back in Addison.
Right.
And the other friend, the sensible one who still plays music to this day.
Right.
The bass player, always the responsible.
Always
bass
the
player.
responsible
Not
one.
enough, not an ego. That's like I gotta play guitar.
Just give me 4 strings.
Yes, I got it. Oh, listen, somebody's gotta hold this shit together. I'll do it.
I have the glue.
I'm humble. I'm the one who's gonna organize.
It's so true.
It's like, I don't need more strings to deal with. I gotta handle
Right.
you guys.
I never thought about like because you do like you typically do see the roles of bands like singers usually like the business dude, but then the bass player never has a personality, but that's exactly why. Like,
Yeah.
they're the glue. They're the ones that
The drummer's the special needs child you have to look after.
right. You're
Those
like
jokes exist already. Like every.
oh no yeah. I mean they're archetypes that are set up. But there's a reason why they exist because it's totally true. So, what musically, what were you guys trying to accomplish initially?
I think it was a lot of a lot of Screeching Weasel, a lot of
Okay.
face to face.
Good.
It was the era.
Mid '90s ish then.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Big Choice.
Oh.
Big Choice, and what that was? It was a self-titled one. That
Yeah. They came out on Fat.
The walk the walk.
Don't walk
song.
away. Yeah.
But the walk the walk.
Oh,
with
yeah,
the
yeah,
bass line,
Yep,
and
yep.
then the bass player, like my buddy Greg, had it. I'm like, you figured that? Oh man, you're a real
You're
musician.
in.
You're a musician. We all suck. You know what you're doing. And then a drummer that was just at the time obsessed with Blink, and we're like, all right.
I know because
But give it like it's kind of like just slow it down,
Ease it
do
back a
do
little
it half the time. Don't do it every.
I'm glad you brought that up because there definitely is such a distinct difference because like I spent most of my time in Southern California and like when all of that was hitting, the idea of pop punk is such a dividing line where it's like you have
Yeah.
Chicago pop punk
Yeah.
and then you have the coast pop punk and then you have the East Coast who was just like pop punk like we didn't really need, like we had our own thing going on.
Which came around, and which in the last year,
Yeah.
I discovered like all the New Brunswick bands, like
Yep.
the Ergs and all these bands.
Yeah.
And that was me having been out of music for so long. Like I'm back in the same place I was 20 years ago. Oh, this band. Oh,
Right.
who are they playing with at this show?
Right.
Oh, I'm going to do that. And then as a comedian, here's where the note. I'm like, oh, what venue did they play? I'm like, oh, maybe I could play that place. Instead
Yeah.
of going to a comedy club, I can now be like, all right, I got some credits. Let me play that venue.
Right.
And do a show for $10 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, the difference is I remember, and then of course we had Pegboy and Naked Ray Gun,
Yeah.
which leaned heavily, and we could never replicate the heaviness of because Ray Gun ended. I think I remember that was when I remember when I was 14 or 15 in high school. All these kids go to the last Naked Ray Gun show.
Right.
Cool kids are doing.
Wait,
Those are
what?
the guys that I wish were my friends. They're going to do some fun in the city. And,
I'll stay behind.
yeah, I guess okay. Maybe I'll be friends with you guys next year.
Right.
So that was the end of that, but I saw Pegboy a bunch in high school, and
Yeah.
that's another guy. Larry from Pegboy is just see a big lunking drunk guy dry heaving between songs. I guess you could look at it as pathetic, but I always looked at it as like this guy is sincere when he's like,
Yeah.
like he's like, this is all I have. It might sound like shit, but this is my relief from life is playing for you guys.
Right.
And that meant a lot. Like, oh, this guy's going to put everything into this. This guy, every show is important to this guy.
Right.
And that stuck with me.
Yeah. No,
that
I
was
could.
another lesson of like, oh, look at this guy needs this.
Right. I just find it so amazing that obviously people like that do experience what we've experienced. Like, obviously we feel lucky because of that. Because like no matter what, these lessons that we've learned through fucking going to shows like are something that's completely applicable in like every aspect of life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No business school is going to tell you you're going to do what you love for free, maybe forever.
You're like, wait, that's not a prudent business plan, is it?
That's not business. That's a path to happiness, but it's
Right.
not business. There was not real hopes of. Obvious hopes like, oh, what if we got to tour? What if we just had a record
Right.
that was ours?
That was like tangible. Yeah.
Yeah, and we never made it that far. But just that's what dictated my happiness was how that band would go, and that's how stand-up is now. Of all the other things that it's brought about for me, which are great, if stand-up isn't going, if I have a bad show, I'm in a bad mood, and I'm like, why did you have a bad show? And analyze it.
Right.
So if everything else goes away and I'm still doing stand-up, that's fine. But if it's not going well like that,
The core of your being not going well. That's
I did it for free for 10 years because it's something I love doing.
Right.
Up the chances of maybe finding success by moving to LA.
Right.
But I still kept the same no, you do this because you like it. If it's supposed to be, it'll happen. And it was still like the screeching. We had like hundreds of people here to see this band.
Yeah.
Because they stuck with it. Because then you listen to the back cat, like, oh, they stuck with it. And you listen to the lyrics and, you know, but this is all, you know, pre-lady punching.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously things have taken a dramatic turn.
I have my own thing. Like, I have my theories that, like, Ben Weasel can pick an aspect of punk rock to stick to. Mm-hmm. And I think he just wanted to stick with the contrarian part.
Sure.
So much, like, to be like, well, it's got to be the opposite of stuff.
Right.
And if punk's kind of acceptable and okay, well,
what can I do that?
Golly, I'm going to be a capitalistic, Catholic, woman-punching piece of shit.
Right.
Which, in a definition of punk rock being opposite of the norm, he's stuck with it.
It's kind of
it's terrible.
Of course.
It's awful.
Right.
He's a piece of shit.
I am not endorsing this.
No, but in that aspect of, like, opposite of the norm, because it's expected. I mean, there's mall punk. I mean, it's nothing for somebody to have piercings and mohawks. And
no.
Aesthetically, it's acceptable.
Right. Because I mean, obviously, it's like the idea of punk is transferred into. I mean, it's a lifestyle as opposed to
the ethics kind of fell away, and that's what got me. Like, ethics is what I like the most.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't be a dick. Believe in what you're doing. And just do that. Stick to your guns on what you're doing. If there's an audience that's there for it, they'll find you.
Right.
If you keep doing it.
Exactly. And I've always liked the idea too of that. When you're not inspiring a reaction, you can look at a lot of what's happening at, like, you know, Coachella or something like that. Or like a lot of the bands that play Coachella, I would define them as like vanilla. Like, you can hear them and listen to them and be like, oh, that's not bad, but it's not inspiring. Like, it's not inspiring a reaction.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, I need to pick up a guitar and fucking do that.
Do you? Okay, I have a question. Do you think it's that it doesn't inspire reaction, or also things are so quickly consumed now? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't get a CD or a record and then just listen to the whole thing. Right. And I'm guilty too.
Oh,
like,
we
I'm
all
just
are.
buying stuff on iTunes so quickly that I'm like listening, like, oh, that was good. Oh, there's a new thing I want.
Right.
And then it's getting pushed to the back.
Yeah.
And it's there's no
lot, like,
we've defeated the staying power of stuff by just having access so easily.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, obviously the idea of a disposableness of the music, like, that totally exists, and it's like, you know, that it is our fault from the fact that we can obviously rifle through, like, you know, any fucking music streaming service, like, oh, cool, like, you know, I've got 900 million thousand songs to listen to, and it's like, like, how am I going to sort through that?
Nothing's capturing a moment in time anymore, because it's all right there.
Right. So, and that, I do think that you hit on the most important point, where it's just like the whole, you know, DIY mentality and, like, the ethics of it, like, that's what will permeate for years, and hopefully we'll obviously be able to continue people doing, you know, like exactly what you're doing. You said, where you're like, I am not doing this because it's prudent for a living. This isn't a business plan. You were, 10 years ago, you weren't like, all right, well, clearly I'm going to get this deal with Comedy Central. Yeah. Clearly, like, that's where it's going to end up.
And also, like, 10 years ago, like, I don't want to just have a job. I have even if I have a job, that's fine. I was never like slack and mooch. Like, I always had a shitty day job. Right. But it was kind of like,
it funded your passion.
Yeah, it was kind of like finding your retirement hobby early. Because, like I've said, like, I totally get the model train guys. Like, people retire and they go crazy. They don't have something to do with it. So if they don't find something, they go nuts. But when they find something, they're immersed in it. Right. And I just found that early. I found that with comedy when I was 22. Like, as soon as I started doing open mics, I'm like, this is something that will never be finished. Right. I will never
perfect this.
And I'm like, well, awesome. So no matter what happens during the day, this is what makes me happy. Right. I was lucky enough that I got that. I found the thing. And for some people, it is their family, you know, because I was very guilty of being like, but what about your passions? Now you're just stuck.
Now you fucking gave up on that. Yeah.
No, some people realize that that's for them. Right. I chose the other path. Right. I didn't go that way. Right. And I probably looked like a real sad sack of shit for many years of like this. I've lived in this apartment. This is the first time I've lived by myself in 36 years. I've had this place for a year. I've always had roommates. Of course. Which is fine. It's LA, you have roommates. Yeah. But I always thought when I go home, like, are people like, Kyle's in his 30s? Yeah. And like lives with A roommate?
It was like 15 people.
Yeah. I'm like, you have roommates too, but it's your wife and your kids. Like, I just look at it different ways.
yeah, they're not exactly roommates.
It's perspective.
Right.
But in the sense of like, I'm happy.
Right.
It was hard to explain that to people because I felt like, oh man, I'd probably look like a loser.
Yeah.
To like friends back home, but I'm also like, I am so happy.
Right.
I am not going, oh yeah, I have to work, overtime.
Right.
Because in 20 years I have a kid that's going to go to college.
Right.
Like, I only have to worry about myself. I
Right.
streamline it.
I've stripped this down to make it as simple as possible. Because, life is a moving target, and you don't know what's going to, what makes you happy at 16 probably isn't going to make you happy at 26, because obviously that shit changes. Yeah. But hopefully, at the core of it, like whatever you're into at 16 should still make you happy.
Yeah.
I look at myself where it's like, I've been basically doing the same shit since I was like 15 years old. And so the idea of like, that I have a wife and I have a fucking kid and like all these other real life responsibilities, but I haven't lost touch with, like you said, that person that goes to a show and it's like, oh, like that still is enjoyable.
Some people, and I'm amazed at the people that can still do it. I know I couldn't.
Yeah.
Which is why I avoided.
Right.
Not like, oh man, so many potential wives just beating down my doors. Like, sorry, babes.
I have to turn away my suitors. Yeah.
Sorry, babes. Kyle's got jokes to tell. He's got to be poor for another 10 years till this takes off.
Right.
Come knocking in 2013.
Yeah. Then we'll talk. Once I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
The doors will open.
I'm up for a new surprise. Let's get some of them critters running around. Yeah. It's not, I don't want to sound totally ignorant.
No. I get where you're coming from.
But I have a friend with 4 kids and is a college professor and is still like making bikes in his garage and like cook. Once he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about putting like a meat curing room in the basement. I'm like, you're insane.
You were like, what?
How do you do this?
Right.
Oh, clearly you're a superior human being. You're a Superman,
right?
You're a great father and husband, and then also has like you are capable of more things in this world,
right?
Than I am, and I can freely willing to admit that.
Right, you're like, I have no problem saying that.
Me, I was like, no, pay your bills, don't go into debt, tell your jokes. That's it.
You're like,
don't fuck up your credit and tell your jokes. That's
right.
My mom was like, whatever you do, don't screw up your credit.
Really?
One thing
so that was like hammered.
One of the things that was pounded, like, I don't know, like, and they weren't like, oh, you have, like, I always felt like a piece of shit if I never had a job. If I couldn't pay my bills and had to borrow money. I never liked that feeling.
Sure.
Like, you earn your keep. I'm a capable human being.
Right. I mean, like, it's shit, like, I know how to enlist myself doing something that I'm not passionate about in order to take care of shit.
Yeah. All the people talk, everybody complaining about the government and their systems and this and that. It's like, you get paid under the table.
Right.
You're going to complain about the government. You've been taking unemployment when you're a bartender under the table for months.
Right, exactly. Just be quiet.
The system you're fondling, you're gonna bilk at. Come on.
Right.
So.
That's funny. No. It was just funny how you were saying, like, obviously, like, the idea that was instilled by your mom was like, just don't fuck up your credit.
And I've learned more from not seeing people who are successful, but seeing people have screwed things up.
Yeah.
And looking at seeing people have just botched up things with credit cards and going crazy on them. Like, oh, that looks miserable. How very un-punk rock of me to try and have some foresight.
Yeah. So what if I spent $15,000 on credit cards? Yeah. Like that's what you do.
FTW.
Yeah,
man.
dude.
Like, oh no.
Fucking live fast, die young, bro.
Yeah. There's so many parts of like reckless life. Oh god, you're gonna be in 5 years. You're gonna be miserable.
Right.
In 5 years, life is gonna suck so bad for you.
Right. There are repercussions to the things that you're involved in currently because this will not last forever.
And you've been straight edge for...
I have, yeah.
So, I still have that, like, carelessness of, like, I drink and this and that. Did you ever have, like, any wild, like total carefree, like, fuck it, I'm doing this, and I don't care? Because I am jealous of people that can... moving to L.A. is a reckless move for the most part. Let's just go see if life works out here.
Right, let's roll this dice.
You know what they might need? Another comedian.
Yeah. Lord, I'm going to Emerald City. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm gonna fill in. There's some job openings out there. I got a better chance of getting a day job because I got this expired forklift driver.
Right.
So that's going to put me ahead of the curve from these other schmoes.
Yeah, I have something I can put on my resume that is clearly heads above.
Step aside, plebes. I got this one.
Basically, whatever, say you start a band and obviously it becomes successful in some, because obviously it's like both you and I have had friends that have played in bands that are just like, oh wow, like they've done well, they've been able to call it, like, when they're writing on their customs form, they're writing musician, and like that's where you've made it. The concept of like everything that's happened after that, like any success, that's like clearly a byproduct as opposed to like the focal point. So it's like, I'm sure what you're experiencing currently, where it's like more people are paying attention to what you are doing, is a byproduct, like you said, where it's just like, oh, we'll ride this and see where this goes.
Yeah. It's not a result of total recklessness.
Right.
Which I'm jealous of the people that have that. Like, I'm just throwing, like I was saying, throwing themselves totally into like, I sink or swim. It's like, I still, like, my parents going, no, and not necessarily have plan B, but like, why shoot yourself in the foot?
Right.
When you can do this.
Yeah.
And still, and it is, the guy, the non-reckless bass player.
Yeah.
Is a guy, graphic design, still, has still toured all over the world with bands. And
right.
Got to see the world, still has a job. It's like, you achieve the dream through being responsible. I know that's not what you want to hear in punk rock.
No.
But common sense and responsibility will get you the goal you want.
Totally.
Much more so than like, I'm just going to Sid Vicious this thing. Those guys all died.
Right.
Like,
there's an expiration date to what you're doing with that.
Yeah. Look at the heroes from 20 years ago. Where are they now?
Yeah.
Where are your heroes from when you were 16?
You're looking up to Ian Curtis? We can all see where that went. We know where that went.
Ben Weasel lives on a farm right now and nobody likes him.
No, totally.
As much as I liked...
Yes. As much as Boogada 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 like changed my life.
There was some lyrics in there. 6% was an excellent song.
Exactly.
The new stuff, unlistenable.
Right, no, complete, like, just not relevant to the world that is existing currently.
But I mean, going to things like the fest, going, oh, look at this.
Totally.
It worked, everybody.
Right.
Look at how this worked. I mean, I hope all the bands enjoy being, it's not like South by Southwest where people are miserable.
Yeah. We're like, oh, God, I got to play this show at 7 in the morning.
Yeah. And it's just like, look at all this working out. But then you do all, like, by Sunday, you see people, like, missing teeth and black eyes. Like, oh, I just, like, plowed into a wall. Like,
wow.
I hate my age right now.
Right.
Like, oh, they're going to get hurt
That's
if
reckless.
they jump off that.
Yeah.
Riverboat gamblers.
Right.
Every time I see Weeby jumping, I'm like, oh, Mike.
Take care of yourself.
Mike, do you have health insurance? Because, I mean, if you do, go great, but, like, what?
Well, it's funny because just in hearing, like, who you are as a person and obviously what you've put out there, like, you've always had that responsible streak, and like I
haven't always had it.
Well, I mean,
it's in certain areas. I mean, there's certain parts where I can't. I remember going to a friend's bar one time. Like, it's $10 to get in. I'm like, why? It's a benefit.
Yeah.
A roller derby girl broke her arm. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing playing roller derby?
Right.
Without health insurance? I'm like, I want to be like punk rock. Like, oh, it's crippled. I'm like, no, that's stupid.
Right.
You're stupid.
Right.
You're stupid.
Right. I'm just calling it like it is.
You did that, and then I get in there and find like, oh yeah, she actually just fell down drunk and broke her arm. And I go in, and the girl's there with a cast on, and she's drunk. I'm like, give me my $10.
Right. I am not supporting
Fuck this. Fuck this attitude.
Right,
this
right.
isn't DIY. This is more like 80s like glam rock bullshit. Like,
living in excess.
Yeah, come on, man. The world will work out for me because I'm awesome. No, you're not. You're a piece of shit. Give me my $10 back.
But the idea that you've had, like you said, like in certain aspects of your life that you've always been like, if you want to do something that you're passionate about, like, you know, don't have a plan B, like you were saying. Like, not like you were saying, but that is a common thing that's thrown out there these days.
Yeah, like I have to make it.
I've always been like you in the regard where it's like, all right, whatever I'm pursuing, I'm going to have like 2 or 3 other things behind it that I'm equally as passionate about, that are fucking fun for me. Hopefully they'll all feed into one another and they'll all like be successful on their own in some fashion. But the idea of just being like, nope, like I am doing this. Like, I mean, I dropped out of college. I did these things to like tour with the band. Yeah. But I always, like, you know, I had a job at a record store when I came home. Like, there were things where I'm like, I wasn't just being like, well, fuck this.
Yeah. It might not be a path to riches.
Right.
But it's something you can tolerate doing.
Right. And this is like, I'm involved in music still. Like, I'm working at a record store. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, that will feed any, lack of funds I am not making with the band, which is obviously like, that exists. Like, making money on the band.
Yeah. Because I was playing, 18, playing music and just playing shows around town and just being happy with that and having part-time college for 7 years.
Yeah.
Really just
I'll take 1 unit or 3 units at a time.
Just trying to figure out, like, I'm going to be a writer. Like, that made me, I felt like that made me sound like an artist without just
being super
real pretentious. Real pretentious. I'm a writer. I only wrote when I had assignments. I never was like, I'm going to...
Here's this. Here, I feel inspired. I'm going to write my short story.
Just at college. If you guys read On the Road, I mean, wow. Oh, Christ.
Fuck Kerouac, he really had that.
That guy, man. That guy.
That was basically like, just like a holding pattern. It was just like, all right, I need to figure out.
It was, yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Which, and more, like, sometimes, I don't know how to articulate. It's kind of sad that there's, like, so much pressure to go to college. Mm-hmm. But it's not for everybody. And that shouldn't be a black mark that college isn't for everybody.
Right.
And it shouldn't be just second high school that you automatically incur debt for.
Right.
What a crippling philosophy.
Right.
Well, you have to go here if you want to go anywhere in life.
Right.
So here's all your loans, and you're going to go for communications.
Right.
That's not going to help you at all.
Anything.
Welcome to the world.
Right.
Pay us back
exactly.
$100,000.
We'll give you a diploma. You can put this on your resume that no one will fucking check. No one will call you.
It looks like every other resume. Oh, except for the guy who, like, is going to make just as much as you because he got the job. And furthermore, looking at people that just because they didn't go to college, thinking they're incapable of, like, education's important. It's one thing I can't take away from you is your education.
Right.
But when you realize, like, colleges get shut down for a week at Halloween because of riots, that's where you're paying to go to learn more.
Right.
And you know what doesn't get shut down? DeVry. And I hate that fucking people want to talk bad about, like,
trade school, right?
Guy, would you go to DeVry? Oh, you went to a school where you're learning a useful skill.
Right.
In 2.5 years, you're going to be valuable to this world. Some shithead that went for psychology is going to look down on you.
Right.
But also gets a week off every 2 months because the students burn down the quad.
Yeah.
Because of a sporting event.
No, for sure.
This guy can build engines.
Right. This guy can weld things together. You wouldn't know. I mean, I definitely fall in the fucking asshole category that I don't know how to do shit with my hands. I am a completely suburban white kid that just like, I'm just never, my dad doesn't know shit. I don't know shit. But like, to a point that you were making earlier, or that we were talking about earlier, where it was like, I think there definitely is stunted adolescence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, I always ask myself, it's just like, how long can I do this? Like, how long can I exist in this world by literally doing, like I said, the same shit since I was like 15 years old? Yeah. And like, obviously it's like you were saying, it's like you're responsible in the sense of like, I'm going to do this no matter what, but I also have these other things that will fund my passion.
Yeah.
But I think there are certain people that like stick in that stunted adolescence that obviously should give up at this point. Like just, and not even to like give up on their passions, but just like, maybe you can transition out of like acting like an irresponsible asshole. Like,
well, you shouldn't. If you're a capable, able-bodied person, there's no reason you should be a burden on society.
Right.
People like, I just don't like working, man. And it's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You find a job. You work a shit job. There's people that would be happy to have a shit job.
Right.
People jump fences and swim rivers to take shit jobs.
You're right, exactly.
You can make money if you want it. It sucks. That's life.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't break this down for you right now.
My hardest, you know what? Use that as your motivating factor. Mine was sitting there going, 5 days a week doing this and just 2 days off? I don't like
that doesn't gel. No.
So I didn't just quit and mooch. I was like, I'm going to really try. I'm going to try my hardest at comedy.
Right.
Every night, on top of working. I'm going to go out every night and try and get good at this thing.
Sure. Hone your craft.
No viable career. That was my release of being frustrated that I had to work a crappy job because I went to college and I have a degree from a liberal arts school.
Right.
Which means I got $2 more an hour driving a forklift. and so yeah, it was like, man, I didn't want to work in an office. I like driving a forklift. At least, aesthetically, like, oh, I moved this from there. I filled that truck. I could see an idea of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
However menial it is, I got like physically, you can have me, but I get to listen to my music and write my notes and write my jokes. So I'll take that job.
Yeah.
I always work just warehouses and everything. Like, listen, I'm a teenager. I can do physical stuff.
Right.
Let me listen to music.
Right. Yeah.
Let me listen to music. Let me, and then when comedy came around, let me write jokes.
Looking around your house, you don't. There's no vinyl, and I was kind of surprised at that.
I just got a record. I left a bunch of vinyl, but somebody 7 inches in Chicago, and I go back and I can't find them.
That's a bummer.
I just started collecting some more now.
That's good. You started to open up that world. Two things to sort of wrap it up. Like, well, one, I am honestly surprised that I don't hear more people that came from that scene like doing stand-up comedy, because like it just seems like such a parallel world.
But they weren't music based. But like all these Chicago guys, guys like Kumail Nanjiani, Pete Holmes, Matt Bronner.
Yeah.
Like, we all started doing stand-up in Chicago.
Right.
And the opportunity was like, well, if you want to make a living at it, you're going to make a shitty living, and you're going to go on the road, and you're just going to entertain people that don't like what you're doing.
They're
like
not showing up for you.
No. They're showing to get drunk, and like... So you can either learn how to babysit these drunks, and some people worked the road for years and did that successfully. Learned how to train those people into becoming their fans.
Right.
I did a couple gigs outside of Chicago. Like, no, I don't like you. I don't want you to like me.
Right.
This isn't for you. I drove 2 hours into Wisconsin in the snow.
Yeah.
Are you dirtbag? No.
Yeah.
So we all just stayed in Chicago and like kind of refined our own thing until it was like, all right, I guess we're going to move to the coast and see if it works there. So it was the same. It was DIY of like, we're just going to do this for free.
Right.
We'll stay here and do it for free. We'd start getting our gigs here and there.
Right.
But it wasn't, nobody went, because you'd go out and they'd come, the comedians that would go out, they'd come back a little flattened.
Really?
Because their material would change, because you'd tell they were just babysitting drunks, so it had to be a lot more.
Yeah, that is true.
Conducive to that instead of...
Yeah, because I definitely can see where there's more, where there were like gut check moments, where it's like you were on tour and you were playing in fucking Montreal to 30 people, and most of them could care less of who you were. Like that moment of just like, I'm on the opposite side of the country. Like there's no one except these fucking dudes behind me. Like I think I need to cry in the bathroom for about half an hour.
Oh yeah, road cries.
Right, and I definitely never thought about it from the perspective of where it's just like, like realistically, like the songs you play at that moment, like they don't change, but obviously night to night, your material can be hardened, like you said, because of that.
Yeah. Or they laughed at this type of thing when I write more that way. And now it's changing the fact, like, oh, now the audience changed and we all got to stick to our style, or develop as we wanted to develop.
Right, develop your voice.
Not a forced development to appease audiences. Because also, when you quit your day job, that was another thing I never did. It was fear. I didn't want to go out like, oh, I need that gig now. Because I need that $50.
Sure.
And I need them to ask me to come back next month for another $50. So I have to do well. So I have to change my material.
That's true.
Bill Burr had some big rant on his podcast about like alternative comics and doing all this shit. You don't go out like comedy should be a boxing match. They're like, no.
You're like, I disagree. Yeah.
No, it shouldn't. It should be a fight. No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It should be whatever the hell I want it to be.
It's true. Yeah.
If you like it to be a boxing match, good for you.
Right.
You're a fantastic comedian. Probably one of the best ones working today.
Sure.
I don't like that.
Right.
I think it should be like a show where like all these people kind of know what they're getting into. They might not know the band, but it's already pre-approved because it's in this place.
Right.
And we see all our friends here, and the bands play with other bands we like. We're going to allow this instead of like forcing it on strangers that are on a date somewhere for $25 a ticket.
Right. You want to play like venues, and obviously like you said, where bands play, and like that's something that you...
I think there's some comedy clubs still have that old vibe of it just feels kind of corny in them. Not all of them, a lot of them are adapting now.
Of course.
They realize comedy's different now. Our club should be different.
Right.
It should, reflect what we're putting on the stage.
Of course.
But also just being somewhere for 5 nights in a row kind of takes, I would say importance, because that sounds really self-aggrandizing.
Right.
But But it's not like it's special. It's like one night. Come to the show one night, and I would
Yeah.
rather go to. Let me hit 3 or 4 cities on a weekend, get a rental car, and do a mini tour,
Right.
and get to more places. They're just like, okay, I'm here.
Here's my 5 years. Yeah, here's my
Kansas
Thursday
City
to
for 4
Tuesday.
days, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's Friday night. And it's just drunks that got in.
Yeah, it's like, oh god, I'm not looking forward to the Saturday night crowd.
Yeah, people always ask, like, what's the best show to go to? Go Thursday or Sunday? Every time.
Right.
Thursday or Sunday. Because those are people that want to be there.
Yeah,
They're
it's
like,
true.
Gonna take my gal out on a date. And,
Yep.
go see this guy. If he's not funny, I'm gonna yell at him. So
Right.
Prove that
I'm gonna
funny.
I'm gonna fucking look like I'm the man.
Yeah. Okay, my gal loved that. My gal loves it when I prove that I'm more of a man than other men around us. So that's gonna be a good time out.
You know, do you notice people that are obviously like come from the sort of, you know, punk scene that like obviously like gravitate towards you or like, you know, go to your shows? Like, did you? I mean, obviously the experience at the fest was probably awesome for you.
Yeah, and that midday show was so fun.
It was great. Yeah,
was
yeah.
perfect.
I felt like I felt like you wanted to go on longer. Like, I mean, in the sense of like, because I mean, I think you did like 20, 25 minutes, if that.
Yeah, we did short sets there.
Right, exactly. I felt like you were feeling the vibe where it was just like, this is good. I can do this for a little bit longer.
I was so apprehensive because the year before it went so surprisingly well.
Okay.
And I was scared shitless because it's still like, oh no, these are all the music guys. I don't know how they take to stand up.
Really?
I don't know if they'll enjoy
That's
it.
it's still that's just kind of in your gut.
Yeah, like this kid's gonna tell jokes. The bands are already funny and they're playing music.
Right.
You're just gonna tell jokes.
Yeah.
And it was great. And so this, like, when I came around this year again, and then Tony put me in charge. I was like, oh, don't.
You're like, no, Tony,
I don't want to lose any more hair over this whole thing.
But it's like, do you notice like punk kids, like whatever? If you just see your average club show, do you know?
To some extent, and also Thursday and Sunday shows are cheaper.
That's true.
Really would like it to be capped out at $15. I know
Okay.
it's hardly the Fugazi $5. I understand it, guys.
Of course.
But it is. It's a lot of people that look like me,
Right.
This look is not an exception anymore.
Right.
There's 0 dork 30 out there now. That's all it is, man.
Like, wow, there's a lot of people that look like me out there.
That's exactly, and then comedians, it's usually a lineup of guys that look like me too.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't be a sad sack,
Right.
piece of shit after guys are doing it just as
It's
funny,
like they're-
or if not funnier than I'm doing. I got to start writing down. I got to go out there with like positive material, like, that's pretty good, guys.
Yeah, PMA, dude.
Guys, yeah, guys, come on, bright side, all right, bright side. We're on the other side of things.
Have you listened to Bad Brains? Like, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about getting ourselves together, not being sad. All right, let's talk about drinking for fun, not drinking for sadness, guys.
I like